Okay, so obviously the Thunderbolts movie came out yesterday, and I loved it. And I was thinking, what if they added the characters to Marvel Rivals? Like, how would they play? Obviously, Bucky is already in the game, although obviously the Bucky in this game is exceptionally different to his MCU version. But on the subject of that, starting off with Taskmaster, who's obviously nothing like they are in the movies, in the comics. I assume they'd add their comic accurate version if they were to add them to Marvel Rivals. So Taskmaster, since their whole thing is like copying characters' abilities, I think Taskmaster should just be like a weird amalgamation character. So they have like Hawkeye's bow as like their main attack, but a sort of weaker, slightly different version. Because obviously Hawkeye himself can just like one-shot everybody with like a headshot. So make it weaker so it can't like one-shot you, but it potentially has some secondary effect or something instead. Then give them a sword. Don't care whose sword, just give them a sword, because they normally have a sword. That can be, obviously just like swung. That could either be their melee or be an ability, and they could sort of do like a sword dash, like magic or something. So then, I'd say give them a shield. But you know how in the Super Smash Bros, Link can automatically block projectiles by just like standing there? If you give Taskmaster a similar ability, so if you just stand there and do nothing, they just stand there with like their shield out, but it's a lot weaker than, like Captain America's shield that you might have to like manually activate. What just hit me? So they can only block, say, like 2 attacks, and like ultimates, like it can't block them. So it's just kind of like a pretty weak shield, but kind of decent enough. Like if you're just holding point, you can block like a couple of hits, that kind of thing. And then also give them the ability to throw it as one of their abilities. And then for their other ability, I know, like, Taskmaster's never really, like, can't really copy Moon Knight in the comics, but I'd kind of like their other ability to have them throw like one of, Moon Knight's like bouncing crescent moon thingies, because I think that could be quite a cool thing if there's like another character that has a multi-hit like that, because most characters in the game, their attacks, I swore I was standing on the point, but sure, most other characters obviously can't multi-hit. So I think that would make a nice touch if their other ability was like a bouncing projectile that could hit multiple opponents, or even just give them like a edited version of Squirrel Girls. Like that would also work. But one way or another, I just so yeah, that's Taskmaster. Then for their ult, if they basically just have the epitome of random bullshit go, and they just spam just random like abilities. It could even be based on who, like, your opposing team is playing, similar to Loki's, where it is more of, like, an exact copying of an ability. Like, I was almost dead anyway, so this doesn't really affect me that much. But, yeah, so do something like that. So then, onto the 2 basically Captain America knockoffs, John Walker and Red Guardian. So Red Guardian I would keep as a tank. Oh yeah, Taskmaster would obviously be a DPS. So keep Red Guardian as a tank and keep him pretty similar to Captain America. So he can hold out the shield in front of him. He has the like the ability to throw it. But then to differentiate him from Captain America, I'd basically give him the Winter Soldier's new, like, team-up ability, where he could basically charge to a teammate and create a shockwave. But because he's from Russia, and we're playing off Russian stereotypes of Russia always being cold, his slam attack would freeze the opponents. So they would be like slowed in place for a while. I think that could be quite a unique type of slam attack. And then, again, I kind of want to give them sort of like an edited version of the Thing's charge move, where again it also inflicts this like freeze or like iced status onto people hit by it. Because again, I think that could be just quite a cool thing if like... Oh yeah, also Red Guardian would do a lot more damage than Captain America. He'd basically be slower and have like no real mobility ability like as easily. Because obviously Cap can just kind of leap around all over the place. Like he's freaking Batroc the Leaper. Whereas all of, like, Red Guardian would be far more like the Thing, where he can kind of only really, like, charge in a straight line. He can kind of move away vertically. But I think that could still be pretty interesting. If you kind of make him, like, this more powerhouse that's built around slowing down the enemy team. While also kind of blocking off their attacks. So then John Walker, he would be DPS. So again, he would have, like, a shield. But it would be a much, much weaker shield. Again, similar to what I was saying with Taskmaster. And yeah, I know 3 of these characters have shields. Like, I did not invent them. Don't blame me, blame the writer, not me. Armored and dangerous. Again. We love whiffing our ult. It's so fun, bro. But yeah, so give him a, again, much weaker shield. Make his main, like, attack, though, just a melee where he, like, punches. Because you know how Captain America, he obviously uses his shield, like, for some of his attacks, because, like, he has that sort of weird meter thing. Don't give John Walker that, just make John Walker just straight up throw hands. But what I would give John Walker, which I know is far more MCU accurate than, like, comic accurate, but I'd give him a rage meter. So the more damage he... Similar to Wolverine, it's like the more damage he takes or deals, the higher this rage meter gets. Thing is, I still can't kill Jeff here. And he knows it. Yeah, so basically the more damage he takes or deals, the stronger he gets, and then when this meter is like full, his melee attacks just do vastly more damage. But then, like, for his other abilities, I'm not entirely sure. Like, I would say, like, give him a gun, but not as his primary fire, just as an ability. He just basically uses sort of a like the Fortnite 6-shooter, where he basically just rapidly fires 6 bullets. And that just deals however much damage. And then maybe even have him like more stab the opponent with his shield, like he does in Falcon and Winter Soldier. Because again, I think that could be quite a cool... Like, I know you're up here, Jeff. Get out of here, bro. Yeah, because I think that could be pretty cool if he had more like a stabbing attack with his shield, and then like, or you could make that his ult, where it's sort of like Bucky's, where he jumps in the air and then just like slams down with his shield. But I don't know. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what his ult would be, because I don't really have any great ideas. But let me know in the comments. As I said, a slam with his shield would be perfectly serviceable. But then on to the 3 that are going to be far more exciting. Starting off, we might as well get all the super soldiers out of the way. So next is Yelena. And I hate how the Black Widow is in this game. Because the Black Widow in this game is just Widowmaker from Overwatch. She is not the Black Widow. So what I would do is basically make Yelena the actual Black Widow. So, you know, obviously the Widow's Bite, the, like, electric gauntlet thingies that the Black Widows have. Obviously, Natasha, Black Widow, does not use them in this game at all, which is insane. So I'd make that the primary fire. So it shoots, like, basically it has the range of, I don't know, like a Fortnite shotgun. Like, it has, like, this much range, like, from where I'm standing to the door. And it has 6 shots. And if you hit multiple consecutive shots, then the opponent then gets electrocuted and stunned in place. So if you basically hit the full clip on the enemy, they get stunned. I mean, if you hit the full clip, like, it would kill DPS and, like, you're basically low health units anyway. But, like, tanks, it would then stun them. So then, for one of her abilities, she'd run forward and, like, leap on the opponent's back and then zap them on the neck with her Widow's Bite, which would again deal a chunk of, say it deals like 150 damage and then stuns the enemy in place for a couple of seconds. Or, like, a second, because, like, multiple seconds for a non-ult would be kind of ridiculous. But, you know, it stuns them in place for a second. Oh my golly on goodness, my aim is so bad, bro. Yeah, then I would also... So you know how Black Widow can switch between her sniper rifle and her batons? I'd let Yelena switch between her Widow's Bite and a pistol, which has more range, but obviously doesn't have the stunning effect and just does straight damage like Bucky's pistol. It has more ammo though, so it has like 10 shots. So it's kind of like if you want to snipe from range, you can, but it only does like, say, 15, 30 damage per bullet. So it's a lot weaker, but it just gives her some ranged capabilities. Then she has like a flip, like Star-Lord. So she kind of does like a flipping thing to avoid an attack. And also, since this game does give characters abilities that they just do not have in the comics, I would make her ultimate like a super shockwave. So she basically just stabs her Widow's Bite into the floor, and then it just creates an electric effect on the ground around her for a few seconds, and then anybody caught in it is stunned in place and takes damage over time, similar to Groot's. So basically her like whole thing would be sort of sneaking in, stunning people, and running away again, which I think is far more suited for a Black Widow whose whole thing is like a spy, which, as I said, I really don't get that from Natasha at all. So, yeah, that's what I do for her. So, similar vein to that, Ghost. So, for Ghost, I'd have them have the ability to basically, like... So, in the Thunderbolts movie, which I guess is kinda spoilers, but in the Thunderbolts movie, she can teleport now, for some reason. So I'd basically let her be able to do that. So she can teleport. For like one of her abilities. Or basically if you just double jump. So she can just constantly teleport all over the place. Obviously it does have like a cooldown if it's used too many times. But say she can teleport 3 or 4 times in a row, like for short distances. Like, it's kind of more basically a dash with extra steps as opposed to a full teleport. God damn it, I couldn't kill friggin' Hawkeye. See, she can basically just zip around the stage. Then she'd have basically a passive ability, where she can just walk through walls. So, or, I mean, you could make that an ability, I guess, so she couldn't just infinitely walk through every single wall. But yeah, if you basically give her obviously some ability that lets her walk through walls, her like primary sort of fire would obviously just be punching, because, I mean, what else is she gonna do? Again, you could give her a pistol, but I don't really want to. Just because outside of this one Thunderbolts movie, she never uses a gun. So I don't really want to give her a gun. I have, like, not had any chance to use my ult this game. Okay, there we... Damn it, I am dead. So yeah, if you basically have her... So yeah, she can punch, you know. So then for another one of her abilities... Well, actually, so for her ult, she just phases through the opponent's, like, heart. And, like, basically rips their heart out. Which is like an insta-kill like Scarlet Witch's, but it's only a single target ult, so it can only take out one enemy, but it just instantly kills them. You could also do it so it also makes like a shockwave, so it deals like 100 straight damage to any enemy, like within a 10-15 meter radius around her. But that's kind of what I think would be like the best thing for her, is having like this insta-kill ult. And then also, oh yeah, for like one of her other abilities, she can just has like a blocking move, sort of like Mr. Fantastic, where she kind of goes into a state where she can't be damaged for a couple of seconds, and then she reflects whatever attack back at the enemy. However, Mr. Fantastic's obviously does it at the same amount of strength. So for Ghost, it would only fire the projectile back at half strength, because I feel like that would make sense. So then on to what is probably, let's face it, the coolest character in the movie, Sentry. So Sentry I have quite a lot of ideas for. So Sentry's whole shtick is that there's two of him, basically. You've got the good Sentry, and then his evil version, the Void. So he'd be a 2-in-1 character like Cloak and Dagger, where he can switch between them. So starting off with Void, actually, not Sentry, he would be very similar to Cloak. So, like Cloak and Scarlet Witch, he'd have one of them, like, energy sucky, soul absorption-y, like, attacks. He just kind of infinitely drains the enemy's health. But rather than being more like a straight sort of, I was going to say grabby hand, like Scarlet Witch's, it would be more like a sort of clawy projectile thing, that he kind of, I mean, not like a claw, I mean like a sort of shockwavy thing, that kind of more goes along the ground in front of him, rather than, I mean, it would still hit aerial units, but like if you were targeting somebody on the ground, it would be more like a grounded shockwave. Just because that kind of goes a bit better, I think, with like the overall aesthetic of the character. So then, one ability that I wouldn't give Sentry or Void normally, had I not seen the new movie, because it's not an ability he has normally, but one of the abilities I'd give him is, I'll call it like Shadow Step or like Nightmare Step, where he dashes backwards, but then anybody who stands where he was just standing is then put to sleep for a couple of seconds, like Mantis's ability. So it's kind of like a 2-in-1 of like Mantis and like a dodging or sort of getting away tool. So it would probably be one of the best like evade moves in the game, to be honest. But still, then I'm not entirely sure what like the other two abilities. I mean, he can shoot like energy and like sort of red energy and like darkness and stuff, so I guess you could also give him a move similar to Hela's, like orb thing, where he basically places down like a shadowy red orb, which then just, you know, does whatever it does. And I think that would work pretty effectively. Then for his ult, because unlike the, so unlike Cloak and Dagger, Void and Sentry would actually have two different ults depending on which of them you have. So Void's ult would be basically like Ramatra's in Overwatch, so like a damage field around him. That just, so if you basically fuse Ramatra's ult and Scala Witch's primary fire, so it basically just sucks away like a load of enemies' health over time for a few seconds. Yeah, that was a mistake. I don't know why I did that, I'm not gonna lie. Mostly because I thought that would hit through his, like, cannon turret thing, and it just doesn't, for some reason. So, okay then, fair enough, I guess. But, yeah, so that would be him. So then for Sentry, he would be... so again, these two, you could actually make them a tank. I was going to say there'd be a DPS, but I feel like a tank would kind of fit Sentry better just for how strong he is. So yeah, there'd be a tank. So his primary fire would be a sun bomb. So he basically just fires like a little ball of sun energy. Because again, in like the comics, he has like sun powers, which he kind of doesn't in the movie at all. But so yeah, his like primary fire is basically just shoots a mini sun at his opponent, which obviously does a lot less damage than it sounds like it would do. But you know. I was not even in the circle for this attack, bro. What the hell? But yeah, he shoots a mini sun at his opponent, because why not? It just does like a flat, you know, however much damage. So, then I'd give him... Basically, Wii Fit Trainer from Smash Bros.' Sun Salutation. So for one of his abilities, he fires a ball, like this one, like the Winter Soldiers, but when it hits an enemy, it heals him for like 80 health. I was like, I should have killed at least one person there. And he just spawned again. And if I'd known where he was about to revive them, I would have just armed and dangerous on his ass, but I didn't. I also can't use it here because I'm under a ceiling, and it's just going to hit nothing. So, yikes. Ouch. So he has like a sun ball and like a healing ball. I'm not entirely sure what other abilities he would have. I mean, I guess he could like fly. Yeah, I guess flying for a short distance like Star-Lord would make sense, actually. So yeah, he can fly in both forms for like a short distance. I said not like free flight like Storm or Iron Man or somebody, just literally a dash, basically. Again, a dash with extra steps. Did I even hit anybody? No, I don't think I did. So, blah. Okay, at least my teammates stopped throwing. And then for his ult, I'd either go with he picks an enemy up and rips them in half, which is like a comics thing, which is again just an insta-kill on a single enemy, which would be very funny. But they are not going to do that in this game, because this game is a 12, not an 18. So instead, basically just Super Sun Bomb. So he basically just drops a little sun on his enemy. Or he just picks up his enemy and throws them into the sun, because he did do that to Carnage once. So, you know, either way, his ult is basically a giant sun. So yeah, that is my idea for the Thunderbolts in Marvel Rivals. Let me know what you think.